This is an English 1 essay from 2017. The student scored a 3, which means between, very limited, and basic. When kids get this 3 score, often they're confused because they don't understand. They think of getting a star score in terms of a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. What teachers and some students don't understand is that the scores, whenever they get that, 2 people score the essay, and then their scores are added together. For this essay, it means that one person read it and they felt like it was a 1, and then another person read it and they felt like it was a 2. And then their scores were added together, and so the student gets a total of 3 points. Whenever raters are rating the scores, the score is multiplied times 2 also, so that this essay counts a total of 16 points for the student's entire performance for the entire STAR test. What I want to do right now is help this reader or this writer understand what a reader experiences whenever they try to read the essay. So here goes. I've already read it before, so I'm a little bit more familiar than I was with the first read, but I think that you can get kind of the idea of what I experienced struggling in trying to read the essay. People can stand together to make a difference. I think he means stand together. People can stand together to make a difference. Here's some ideas how. We can protest, stand for what's right. There are more people getting bullied than there are bullies. The victims could stand against that. The people can stand for what they won't through a peaceful protest. Violent protest doesn't really get people anywhere. People can stand together for what's right. If a lot of people see someone doing wrong, they could stand against it. People getting bullied, there are a lot of victims to bullying. There are more victims than there are bullies, so if all the victims say, I don't know what that word is. So if all the victims blank against the bullies, they could overpower them. These are some good ways people could stand together to get what they were trying to accomplish. When I read this, I'm having so much time trying to decode what it is that I'm not really even sure that I know what I read. The handwriting and the spelling are really interfering with me being able to even understand what this writer is trying to explain. To express this a little bit more, what I did is I typed it out, and you can see that there are a couple of issues that are getting in the way of us being able to visually decode what's going on with this student. For example, in handwriting terms, there are 3 things that this student can do to really bump up our ability to decode what he's doing. Every time that we see almost the T, it looks like it's a capital letter as opposed to a lowercase letter. And so if the student would be a little bit more careful with that placement of the crossbar whenever it's a lowercase letter, that would be very helpful. The other thing that happens with this student is the student really is unwilling to go past the baseline of the line with his handwriting, and if the student could really focus on getting that P in the correct formation, that P would hang down below the baseline, it would be much easier for us to read it. The next issue is with the N. Every time that we see an H, the student is unwilling to rise that top part of the letter to make it an H up to the top line. And if the student would make that letter a lot taller for the H, it would be very much easier for us to see what's going on. The second thing that is interfering with me being able to do this is some of the spelling. It's not that you have to spell every word correct, and this one is close, but this one isn't. When you're spelling, you want to try to do a couple of things. One, you want to try to hear and represent all of the sounds that are present. And this one, in terms of spelling, could be corrected pretty easily. Whenever you're spelling it out, I'm going to recreate it here. You think about it in terms of chunks. Vic, v, I, Vic. Okay. Tim's, Tim. I know a guy named Tim, and I know how that's spelled is Tim. T, I, z, victims. That is a closer representation of what the word should be spelled. Whenever I look at this one, if I were trying to sound this word out, the chunk inside of here is Tom, victims. Well, that's not the way we pronounce that word. Here's another one. Even if you don't know how to spell against, it gets closer in it this time because all of the sounds are represented. This one, this word that he spelled is actually agent and doesn't represent all of the sounds. But if we were to try to chunk this word slowly to articulate all the sounds in there and represent them with a letter, I know it starts with an A, g, n, again, st, against. That word isn't spelled correctly, but the reader can at least tell what you're trying to say. For example, there's another one down here that I just never could figure out, even contextually, what it was whenever the writer said this word right here. I still don't know what that is. And if the writer would have been able to try to get a letter to represent each sound that he heard, I'd do a better job of being able to understand what he was trying to say. So sometimes whenever we're working with students, we want to address these issues, even though I'm looking at a surface feature of handwriting and spelling for presentation issues. I still want to give the student some process feedback that helps them be able to know how they can solve that problem whenever they're entering the writing or they're composing to begin with.